You can type in questions throughout the webinar. We will have a question and answer session at the end. Probably won't be time to answer all of your questions, but we'll get to as many as we can. Today's webinar presenters are Tess Whitty, an English to Swedish translator active in the ATA as a language chair for the English to Swedish certification program and as a committee chair for local chapters and groups, and Birgit Vosseler-Bremer, a certified English into German translator located in Germany. Birgit was the winner of the 2012 School Outreach Contest. Tess and Birgit, thank you for volunteering your time.
Thank you, Naomi, and welcome everyone. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have another participant, an interviewee too, Maria Elena Gabarov-Freites, but unfortunately she could not attend due to some health issues today. I am very happy to be hosting this webinar. And I want to thank you for tuning in. If you have worked as a freelance translator or interpreter for a while too, like me, the chances are that you simply love your profession, and that's what I do, and I want to share this with as many people as possible. So when I was asked to present this webinar, I happily agreed, and I hope it will give you some inspiration to spread the word about your profession too. So today I wanted to talk about, this is the overview of what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to answer the following question: why we should do school outreach and how the school outreach program can help with this. Some practical advice on how to contact the schools and prepare a presentation, and a little bit of information about the school outreach contest. But most of all, I wanted to present the previous year's winners and interview them about their experience with the school outreach program. And I will leave plenty of room for questions at the end, so please jot them down, and I look forward to discussing with you later. First, I wanted to give a brief introduction about the school outreach program and why it was created. You probably know already, you might know already that in 2013 translation and interpretation were among the 15th fastest growing professions in the US according to the Department of Labor. I have tried to find information about statistics from other countries, and I know that IBIS World predicts the translation services and interpretation services to grow significantly in the coming years too. And for example, I heard yesterday that the linguistic industry in Sweden is growing 15% per year. So the language capabilities are becoming increasingly important for all sorts of aspects, for our national security and our economic success, and in many instances in the workplace, in legal, medical, business, etc. And the globalization and the internet also leads to an exponential growth in the material that needs to be translated. But there still seems to be a bit of lag in the knowledge about our career, and many educators and teachers are still unfamiliar with our profession, and there are public people and business people that still don't know the difference between translation and interpreting, and therefore it is up to us professional translators and interpreters to spread the word about our profession and the professionalism in it, and there's no better place to start doing this than in the schools. So that's part of the reason ATA School Outreach program was created. to simplify this process, to give information, and to make this process fun. It makes it very easy and provides a lot of material to use and tips on how to present and how to contact the schools. So this is that was information about the school outreach program, but what is it in it for you in particular? You can help prepare the next generation of translators and interpreters, and you can create awareness among other people about our profession. It's a great opportunity to practice presentation skills. It's in a non-intimidating environment. You can you usually know somebody in the school. You stand in front of others. You talk and engage with students who are usually very interested in what you have to say. And to make it even more tempting, you can also earn continuing education points for doing this work in the schools, for presenting in schools about your career. And you can win, you can also win the contest, the ATA School Outreach Contest, and then you win the registration fee for the next year's annual conference. When you go out in schools, you also meet other teachers and future business people, and you create great new connections in the schools. And above all, everybody I have talked to, and from my own experience, it's a lot of fun to do the school outreach. Perhaps you are interested in talking about your job in the schools, but how do we do it then to contact the schools? The easiest way is to find a local school or university close to you. Perhaps you know anybody going to this school, or perhaps you know a teacher. It's very easy if it's your children's school, for example, but it doesn't have to be. You might know other people in the school. And if you don't have a personal connection, you can see which local schools or universities are convenient for you to visit, and think about which age level you find most appealing to present to, and also look for schools that offer classes in any of your languages that you work with. When you found some schools, you can go to the website. These days, most information can be found on the website. You can look for the department, you can find name and phone number, and you can also call the receptionist at school and ask for more information. And then you can either email or call the person who is responsible for linguistic education or for careers. Most schools are very interested in having you come and talk to them in a class, in a language class, or at their career fair or career day, for example. The person to contact is usually the teacher or the department chair or the principal. So when you contact the school, then you can send information, a brief information about you and your profession, that you're a translator or interpreter, and you can give brief information about the school outreach program and ATA as an organization. And the school outreach program even provides a cover letter if you want to use that. So what material does the ATA School Outreach Program provide? I already mentioned the sample cover letter, but there's also pre-made presentations for different grade levels, and handout material, exercises, and lots of tips on what to say to different grade levels, how to say it, and what you can do for extra credit, and pre-made presentations. I just wanted to give you a short view of the landing page when you come to the school outreach page. Here you can see the address to the school outreach, or you can go to the atanet.org and just type in school outreach in the search box. This is the page, and you can see it's made very easy to understand about making a visit to your local school and how to contact them, and tips on public speaking, general guidelines, what to say, how to get the gig, and photos, the information about the contest, etc. And here I've pasted in, this is not on the landing page, but if you click further, you can see presentation resource materials and tips on how to speak to different grade levels, elementary, middle school, high school, etc. I tried to condense the tips on how to speak to different grade levels into this table, but it's not by any means all-inclusive. But the basics are that at the elementary level, you introduce yourself and how you usually have a connection to the school if you go to elementary levels. And you present the language or a country you want to talk about and provide lots of props and pictures, and you can show books in the other language, and etc. And give easy examples of the translation or interpreting. For example, if you go to your children's school, you can use your child as a presentation of how the interpreting is made. That's what I did when I presented at the elementary school. I just said something in Swedish and they interpreted it into English. Make it fun with games and questions, and show a lot of maps and books and etc. And for middle school, high school, and up, you will be able to get more into detail about the actual profession and job and what is required for doing a good job, about education, career opportunities, and the job market, the current job market, and the income, etc. And you can make it fun by telling a joke. For example, there's this joke is, what do you call someone who speaks 3 languages? Trilingual. What do you call someone who speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. What do you call someone who speaks 1 language? American. And there's a lot of translation bloopers around that you can also use. But for all of the levels, what you can think about is to make it personal, talk about your connection to the profession, how you got started, a typical work day or a typical job you've performed. You can make it concrete by comparing different skills needed and discussing the tools of the trade, CAT tools, give career resources, examples of educations and schools to attend, and talk a little bit about, not giving specific examples, but what the income level can be. You should make it interactive by asking questions, and you can hand out sample translations and demonstrate an interpretation case or example, like I did in the elementary school, for example. And to make it count, you can give some handouts and resources, which the school outreach program provide, if you want some. And make it fun by telling jokes and showing bloopers, and perhaps bribing the students a little bit by handing out something for them. So those were some examples, but nothing is better than hearing from people who have done it already. And Today we are going to interview Birgit Vosseler-Bremer about her experience. She was the winner of the school outreach contest in 2012. She presented to a school in Germany, and I want to ask her a few questions about her experience. So
Hello.
welcome, Birgit.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for attending.
Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit about your experience of presenting about your profession in schools.
It was very exciting and also very rewarding, and as you already mentioned, it was fun because of all the new connections that you make.
Mm-hmm.
I still get feedback from students today who tell my daughter that they liked my presentation and they thought it was so cool.
Good. And what grade level did you present for?
I presented to a language class, to an English AP class in Germany. And the age level was the junior year. All students were in their junior year.
Okay. And is that high school?
Yes.
Sort of.
Well, sort of, yes. We have a different school system than in the United States, and it's in the gymnasium.
Gymnasium. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have that in Sweden too. Gymnasium.
Okay.
So what was your approach when you presented to this grade level?
When I talked to a teacher, she suggested that I talk to this age level because she said, well, you know, these students, they are very close to making their own career choices, and they are probably very interested in what you're doing and what you're saying, what you can do with languages.
Mm-hmm.
And so that made sense to me, and I went along with that. And my approach was I talked to the teacher ahead of time, and she let me know what the class had talked about. For example, they had talked about CVs. They had also talked about pros and cons of working in a home office. And so that was just perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to include these topics into my presentation.
Okay. So how did you go about contacting a school? How did you find it?
Now, finding a school was pretty easy. I chose the school that my two daughters attend, so I didn't have to go very far. I chose the teacher who was responsible for career information, and I contacted her by phone.
Mm-hmm.
And once she agreed and I got the gig, and once I was getting real, I checked out the school outreach website, and I looked for presentations there, something that I could use as a basis because I wasn't aware that I could use the entire presentations. And I also looked for ideas on how to make it interesting for that age group, for 70-year-olds.
Did you find a lot of ideas at the school outreach?
I did, and I just looked at your chart. I used all of the points you mentioned. I used bloopers, I used a workday, a typical workday. I was afraid at the beginning that I wouldn't have enough material, but we keep forgetting that we're so much into our profession and forget that other people are not that much into it, and everything is new to them. And so I had plenty of material.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us some presentation tips for?
Yeah, once my presentation was ready, I went back to the ATA website and checked out what do I need to do to make the presentation work. And I found the most important tip for me was practice the presentation and practice it many times until you feel comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Another advice I would give is if you need a laptop, it's best to rely on your own material because you can try it out at home without any pressure, and you know that it works. And my last tip would be prepared for school routine. It works a little bit differently than we are used to work. There's people knocking at the door. Sometimes, in my case, we had to change rooms, and so on. So you have to be flexible to a certain degree.
Okay. And lastly, you won the contest, and the picture is very important for the contest. How do we take a winning picture for the contest?
I think it is important to think about the picture ahead of time. Think about it, how do you want to stage it? Think about it, what kind of props you want to use, and who can take the picture, because you're supposed to be in it. It's also important to use a camera that is easy to use, so that you do not have to explain in all length how to use it. And I also think it's important to have enough time to make the picture and maybe do another one or a couple of pictures, so that you do not do it at the very last minute and everybody is rushing out and you don't get your picture.
Did you take the picture first, before your presentation, or after?
No, actually we did it at the end.
Okay.
And I was a little bit worried that I would have to leave without a picture, but it turned out great.
Yes, yes. For me, it was always a last-minute thought, so my pictures have not turned out very well, I guess. So thank you, Birgit. And instead of Maria today, I will answer the questions myself, because I've recently done 2 school outreach presentations at the 2 universities in Utah, and I did one a few years ago to the middle school students. And in middle school, it was my son's class, 6th grade class, and they were introduced to 3 languages, the 3 languages that they could pick later on to study. And I contacted the teacher there, and she was very excited to come have me talk about what careers they can have with languages later and the importance of languages. So I introduced translation and interpreting to them. And I, like you said, Birgit, it was very fun and very much appreciated both by the teachers and by the students. And that was also the case when I presented at the universities. For example, at Brigham Young University, we have our ATA board member, or previous board member, Alan Melby, who is a professor in linguistics, and he was very excited to come have me speak at the university. And at the University of Utah, it was the same thing. It was the Department of Linguistics, and I just contacted them. I think because Alan had asked me to talk, I contacted them too, and they wanted to come because a lot of them make career choices. They were at their junior or senior year, and they were making career choices, and they were very interested in hearing about these professions. And I know that when I was going to high school and gymnasium and at the university, translation and interpretation wasn't even on my radar. I was one of those who thought that there was mostly you could only become a teacher. I was very interested in languages, but you could only become a teacher or you translated books on your free time. So I think it's very important that more kids these days learn about translation and interpretation. So I just found the contact person and I emailed them, and they emailed me back and said we decided on a time. And then I did as you did, Birgit, and went to the ATA School Outreach website, and I looked at the tips for presentation and the presentation material and the handouts, and I didn't either use one of the presentations straight off, but I used the material as a basis for my own presentation. But it is true that you can use the presentations available as they are. You just have to give credit to the creator of the presentation. And presentation tips for me is I brought my own computer, but I also had the the presentation saved on a stick, and for example at the university I used the stick because they had their own setup already, but it was very easy to use it, a USB memory stick. And if you are nervous to stand in front of the people, it's very easy to break the ice by doing some jokes first and then asking a lot of questions. And general presentation tips are to show videos. I don't know if there are any videos available, but then the attention is not on you. And you can also have the students do some small exercises to interact with each other and you. So it's very easy to break the ice and to become familiar, and the groups are usually not that huge. I had about 10 students in each group when I presented at the university. I cannot give any tips on how to take a winning picture, unfortunately. I haven't sent in any pictures yet, and I sent in one a few years ago, but I didn't win because the picture was an afterthought. So I know that what Birgit said were good tips. Think about it beforehand, pick somebody to take the picture, make sure you have some sort of props that show that you're giving the presentation and what it's about, and use a good camera, not your iPhone like I did. So, for example, here is Birgit's winning picture from 2012 on the stairs. Looks very nice. And she used the Chronicle as an example. And here is Maria's picture from last year when she did the presentation, and she had made little signs that they were holding. Finally, some brief information about the actual contest. If you do a school outreach presentation, you might as well register for the contest. And there is still time this year to go contact people. I know that a lot of people are planning their careers now, and there might be even career fairs still, or career days, and especially in the lower grades in the schools, towards the end of the year there are a lot of more flexibility in the schedule, and you can go in and do a presentation. So what you do is you go to ATA's School Outreach Resource Center and click on the presentation resource material, and then you choose an age level that you like the best, and you download the presentation or just use the resources available as a basis. And then you set up an appointment or a time to come to the school, and you speak on translation and interpreting at the school or university. The deadline is July to send in the picture, and the picture is actually the most important, but you also have to say where you presented and how it was. And for whom you presented. And the deadline is July 18th, 2014. And if the schools don't have time to bring you in, don't worry. The school outreach contest will run for next year too. So get someone to take a picture of you in the classroom, and then you send in the picture electronically to ATA's Public Relations Committee with the subject line School Outreach Contest, or you can mail your entry to the ATA headquarters. You need to include your name and contact information, the date of your presentation, the school's name and location, and a brief description of the class, plus the picture. And you can submit multiple entries if you want. And what you win then, what you might win, you might win the registration for the conference in Chicago or for future conferences, which is quite a good price, I think, several $100s. So with that, I wanted to encourage you to join the ATA School Outreach movement and start educating clients one classroom at a time. It's very easy and it's fun and it's free. And now I want to leave room for questions. I will try to answer as many questions as possible, but the head of the school outreach program currently is Megan Ray McCallum too. So do we have any questions?
Actually, we'd like to have some people send in questions, but we also thought that if you've already done school outreach, or if you've presented, I'm talking to the audience, if you've presented to any grade school, even on another subject, why don't you send in your tips in the question box so we can read some of those out.
That would be great.
So just a question that I had, actually. How much time did it take you guys to prepare for your presentation? I mean, I'm sure the first time took you longer, but can you average it out?
I can start and Birgit can continue. Actually, since all the material are already on the web, it didn't take me very long. I did adapt the presentation though, which you don't have to do. So that maybe took me an hour, and then of course rehearsing it. It depends on how used you are to presentations, but giving presentations, but the rehearsing took I don't know, a few hours here and there. It's hard to say. What do you think, Birgit?
Yes, I think practicing definitely took for me 2 to 3 hours until I was happy with my speaking presentation and so on. And well, I took also some time to prepare the presentation, as I wanted to adapt it to Germany, and yeah, and to fine-tune it to the class I was speaking to. So I would say it took me more than an hour, probably 4 or 5. But as there are ready-made presentations, I think people should really use it and make it as easy for them as possible.
And I wouldn't count this as wasted time either, because it's really good to get this practice of presenting and preparing a presentation too.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So another common question is, well, I think I've covered most of the questions, so I would like to know what the audience's experience is. Have any of you given any school outreach presentations, and what was your experience?
Well, we actually have one tip by Corinne. She says that a lot of foreign language teachers are themselves interested in becoming translators, and that can be a good hook when you're trying to get the gig.
Oh, so that's a great tip. Yes.
Actually, that is true. I noticed during my presentation that the teacher was always kind of, yeah, I decided to go for being a teacher because yeah, and she kept explaining why she became a teacher and did not decide to become a translator. So that was really interesting.
And I know Corinne has worked as a language teacher before too.
So I have a tip here from Donna. My advice for any level is to plan your entire presentation while keeping the following question in mind. What's in it for them? Which is kind of cool. I've actually presented to some 4th graders on a different subject, and I can tell you what's in it for them is totally different from, I did a presentation for Monterey students 2 weeks ago, and totally different what's in it for them. So that is really a cool tip.
Yes, yes.
Indeed. What age group would you say that is the most receptive to this type of presentation?
To me, I think the university level and the high school level or gymnasium level was the most receptive, because that's when they do start think about what career they want to have. But I think it's important to even start in the elementary schools to just raise the awareness of how important it is to know other languages. So, but the most receptive, I think, is when they really start thinking about a career.
Okay.
Here's one that's a little more concrete. How do you judge a picture? What's the criteria? Is it a matter of just liking the picture? Is there anything that you can, say that would make my picture better than someone else's, because I really want to win the contest, right?
Unfortunately, Megan is not here, who is the head of the school outreach. I will give this over to Birgit, but I do know that they want the picture should be clear and show the students and you and some proof of you talking about translation and interpretation. What do you think, Birgit?
Yes, you mentioned all the points. That is correct. You have, the presenter has to be in the picture, and it is good if the presenter is in the center, not just at the corner of the picture. You have to show that you have been talking about translation in some way or other. What was your third point?
Show some that it should be clear. And
exactly, yes.
For example, I took a picture lastly, I showed it in the beginning of the presentation, but we had the slide show in the background, which sort of made the picture blurrier and the faces blurrier, and I also just took it with my iPhone, which didn't provide very good picture quality.
Yeah, I think it is also important that it's close up. It's a bit difficult if the person taking in the picture stands in one corner and everybody else is a little bit far away. I think this is something else that is important. But that's already what you said. It should be a very clear picture.
Okay.
Here's one from Cami, and this is another tip. High school students in foreign language classes are very aware of tools like Google Translate. So you need to talk openly about the possibilities and limitations of machine translation and briefly introduce the other type of translation environment tools. Sounds pretty cool.
Yes, that's a very good tip, and actually that's already covered also in the school outreach tips. But it's a very important point to distinguish between Google Translate, when Google Translate is appropriate and when it's not, and where a professional translator comes into the picture.
Yes, that is a good hint, indeed.
We have a couple more tips from two different points of view. Edna says that elementary level school children require visual aids, games, props and demonstrations, whereas Donna, who presented at university level, focused on translation programs, graduation programs, and how to prep for the exams. So two interesting points of view there.
Yes, especially how to prepare for further education or for a career. That's very important at the university level or high school level.
Here's another question. How long did you present? Does the school give you a time frame? Do you give the school a time frame?
I had a regular class time, which is 45 minutes, up to an hour. My presentation didn't last that long, but I also had exercises and had left room for questions. How about you, Birgit?
I think since this was an English AP class, we had twice 45 minutes, and I think I used it all. I don't know what happened, but the class was interested, and the teacher had questions, and because part of the topic they were familiar with, and because we talked about CVs, they were really interested about it, so it took way longer than I had planned.
Good.
But I think it was fine, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have one person here who, I'm just going to say it for everyone, please type into the question box. Yes, you are muted, so Vicki, go ahead and type into the question box and we'll get to it. Maya, you want to do the next question?
Yes, I was going to read somebody else's experience. She says that she demonstrated shadowing, letting each of the students try it, and it was a blast. The 5 to 8 graders who were already bilingual were amazed that they actually had a marketable skill. So that's really something that the students can get out of that, of the experience.
Yes, in a lot of the classes there are already bilingual students that you can use as example of interpreting and stuff, and it makes it so fun both for them and for you and for the others.
Indeed.
Sheila has some advice about how to get the gig, and that's to sort of demonstrate that you're a good translator to the teacher. So you have to convince the teacher that this is entirely worthwhile and that the knowledge will be useful for their students.
Yes, you have to prove that it's a good profession.
If you were to use videos, can you recommend any that might be interesting?
Unfortunately, no. That was just one of the general presentation ideas I had, but you can do a search on YouTube, but you can also, with a normal smartphone these days, you can record your own videos of sort of an example of a translation or interpretation situation, or when it's really needed, or just when somebody doesn't understand and how you can help and stuff. Or you can even provide a video screen recording of when you perform a translation.
Oh, that's very interesting indeed, yeah. Mary, would you like to read another question?
Sure. We were just talking about videos, and you might find something online. Are there any other resources that you guys found online outside of school outreach, something about how to present to a level of students, any other resources? There's so much out there.
I did not look for very much outside of the ATA school outreach program because they had so much provided, and they actually have a video on, I forgot to mention this, on the school outreach website, but when I checked it out the link wasn't working, and I need to make the school outreach committee aware of this. So, but there are videos and there are a lot of pictures that you can use.
In fact, Edna's recommending one here. She says for an icebreaker, there's a video of a humorous relay interpreting scenario on an episode of Frasier. Frasier may be beyond some of you, but it's a pretty funny show. So that's probably a pretty cool tip.
I also know a video of a person who pretends to be an interpreter at a very important meeting with participants from all sorts of countries, and I'm sure many of you have seen it. I forget what it was called now, but it's something about a fake interpreter or something, and it's hilarious when she pretends to speak all the other languages which she clearly cannot speak.
Just relating to my own experience speaking to fourth graders, I've done it twice, and I had a whole PowerPoint presentation prepared, and I realized when I was there and I'd gone through a couple of slides that I was losing the kids entirely. So do you guys recommend How much, I know there's PowerPoint material on the school outreach site. Have you used it? Do you recommend it? What's your experience?
Well, just like with any other presentation and even this webinar, there's always the fact called death by PowerPoint. If you just rely on the PowerPoint and just have bullet points on the PowerPoint presentation and go through that, you will quickly lose the students, which is very important, why it's very important to make it more interactive. And especially for the elementary grades, I think that you don't even have to have a PowerPoint at all if you don't want to. You can just base what you can talk about from it.
Yeah, I think I had so much information that seemed like a PowerPoint was a good idea. It turned out I had to cut the slideshow off and just talk. And I think that is part of what you're saying, is to pick up what your audience is feeling, and so you have to be prepared to go with the flow.
Yes, that's a very good tip.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there are ups and downs. During the presentation, you feel that they lose interest, but then when you touch a different topic, they're with you again. That's my experience with the junior year students.
And what I can add, what you said earlier, Birgit, also is this should not feel intimidating then, because you actually you are nervous. You might feel nervous that you don't know what to talk about, but once you're there, the people you're talking to don't know as much as you do about your profession, and you will have a lot to talk about and a lot of information when people ask questions.
Yes, exactly. And I think it doesn't hurt if you do have a PowerPoint in your back, because then you know what you want to talk about. And you can skip parts of it when you feel, oh, okay, this isn't really interesting for them, and go to a different topic. And certainly I think fourth graders, that's a whole different story than high school students.
So what advantages did you guys highlight to the students? Compare translation to another career, translators to other jobs. How did you have specific examples?
I just related to my own experience about the flexibility of freelancing per se. I also introduced in-house translation and the advantages of that, but I also talked a lot about the freelancing and the flexibility and what you need for that. And I also I gave them, I didn't give any numbers, but I basically told them that I'm earning more as a freelance translator than I did working as a marketing manager previously.
Yes, I agree with Tess. I did pretty much the same thing. I didn't compare it to being a teacher. I talked about the freelance situation and about the flexibility and the freedoms I have, but I also talked about what it is like to be your own boss, and all the consequences that has. So I didn't really compare it to being a teacher.
So one more tip and then one more question. This is from Donna, tied into the death by PowerPoint idea. At the high school level, make sure students get a chance to speak. And she also adds, breathing keeps them awake, which I think it keeps everyone awake. And the last question, do you have a best time of the year that you would recommend for doing this?
No, not really. It just really depends on when the school have career days or stuff, which are good. But I found that the university level, it was good to do it in the spring when students really think about what to do next. But not too late, because universities, for example, yesterday was the last day of classes in the university here, so early spring I would say, but late spring might be good for lower grades and high schools and stuff because they have more flexibility in their schedule then. What do you think, Birgit?
Yeah, I think you really have to go with what the teacher says. For me, it was like when all the tests are done, the teachers have room to do other stuff. So they use speakers like us to fill in. This was, at least that was my impression, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I want to wrap up with two reminders. First is the next ATA webinar, which is in May. This is dealing with CalPro, which some of you, it actually was developed in Europe, and it's become Americanized for this side of the Atlantic. And it's really gives you the opportunity to assess your business from top to bottom and decide if you're living in reality or not. I want to work 6 hours and make $100,000, not real. So this gives you an opportunity to plug in your own numbers and end up with an assessment of your business so that you can have your budget and your goals. It's a pretty important thing for businesses to do, and I think that's one of the things that translators forget, is that they're a business. Then we have the annual conference coming up in November. It's in Chicago. We're getting a lot of interest already. People are excited. It's a big major city, and I can tell you lots of places to go and food to eat, especially the food. So I want to remind everyone, it's November 5th to 8th. We'll have the registration online in July. We're still putting the program together, but there should be at least 175 sessions. So really something to look forward to, plan to. We do have one page on the ATA website right now that just gives you the hotel information. So please check it out on the ATA website. And finally, I wanted to end with ATA's web address. And if you haven't seen it, we redesigned the website, and you might want to take a look. It's really sort of totally restructured. So feel free to check it out. And then when you're looking for webinars, go to www.atanet.org/webinars. We have all the past webinars there as well as the future ones. And with that, I'm going to end today and wish all of you a great day and hope that we see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.